Are you sitting comfortably?
We've been expecting you, ELR listener. This is, not only is it Halloween, but it's our James Bond episode. Welcome to Are You Sitting Comfortably on East London Radio. My name is Roo.
And you've been waiting to use that opening line for a long time.
We've been expecting, yes,
Yeah.
you may have noticed that came pretty well prepared.
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not bad. Just trying to figure out our levels, so talk amongst yourselves for a little while.
Okie dokie. Welcome to our Halloween edition, which is mostly about James Bond, of course.
Well, because it's always a very scary experience queuing up for the latest James Bond. Because you always think, is this going to be quantum levels of James Bond, or is this going to be Casino Royale levels of James Bond? I think Skyfall sits firmly in the middle.
You're going to be like this all day, aren't you?
What do you mean? What?
Throwing in lots of really weird references to stuff.
That's pretty on point, isn't it? We're talking about James Bond.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's fair enough, I
But
suppose.
Skyfall comes in the middle because it divides the James Bond audience. There are the James Bond people who like it when Daniel Craig spends an hour and a half kicking people in the face, and there are the James Bond fans who prefer it when he does all his suave one-liners and I don't know, goes up on the side of his car and all that kind of stuff.
And which one of those is Skyfall?
Skyfall is more suave one-liners and doing fancy stuff in your car.
And Casino Royale
is kicking people in the face.
Yeah. And then Quantum of Sausage?
Quantum of Sausage is
just bad.
It is mostly kicking people in the face.
Yeah.
But, well, no, Casino
and then
Royale...
something explodes for no reason. That seems to be a theme in James Bond films.
Well, no, Casino Royale is about how James Bond learns to kick people in the face. Casino Royale is all about rape and fire, and it's sort of a revenge plot. And Skyfall, there's quite a big gap between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, so we presume he's done lots of successful missions by that point. And then he gets into a bit of a...
Home Alone style thing with Judi Dench.
But it's a villain with a personal vendetta, so that's what makes Skyfall kind of unique, because he has to think outside the MI6 box. Is it MI6 or MI5?
MI6.
One of them.
Yeah.
And Spectre is... Well, we'll get to that later.
We will.
But first...
See what you did there. That was very well done. You're a professional at this kind of thing,
What are we
aren't you?
going to do? Oh, yes, I know. I wanted to mention, actually.
Ooh.
Yes, that wasn't very professional. But we were talking about how you think that in order to have enjoyed this particular movie, you need to have watched the first two James Bond films ever made, but I disagree.
I wouldn't say the first two James Bond films ever made, because I'm aware of all the ones that came before Daniel Craig. If you, for some reason, are insisting that nothing happened...
No.
See, like that. That was it. That's the entire
first James
discussion.
Bond film I ever saw was Die Another Day.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know, which is probably why I like Quantum of Solace.
Well, the only way was up from Die Another Day.
But no,
although you didn't spot Madonna.
No, well, at the beginning I heard her singing,
homosexual.
but I didn't. Well, I'm clearly less of a homosexual than you.
Well, you say that as if that's something to be proud of.
Sitting there with your tutu on while you do the show,
dancing around the studio.
I'm in my James Bond tux.
Well, yes, you look very suave. Actually,
thank you very much.
Sharp.
I'm not wearing anything on the bottom half, but you'd never know.
Well,
what was I going to say? Yes, it's been rebooted. Everything was rebooted except for Dame Judi Dench. That'd just be rude.
Wouldn't it just?
So after Die Another Day, it's all about James Bond gaining his 00 status, as I say, learning to kick people in the face, accidentally falling in love, and all the rest.
I'd have quite liked to see James Bond, the intern, like the years before he got to 00 status.
Oh, yes, no, that would be great.
With just doing the photocopying and bringing people coffee.
Well, because there are some copyright issues, they say that the next James Bond film might be a continuation, but at the same time, they may be developing an offshoot brand of James Bond. So it could all turn into a bit of an MCU if we're not careful, which doesn't suit Bond, does it?
No, not at all. In fact, I was thinking on the way over here, and we've had this argument at the top of our voices on the tube after seeing Skyfall on Wednesday night, which must have been hilarious for everyone listening. But I don't even think it needed a full reboot. Because
they call it a soft reboot, don't they? Or as I call it,
a defrag.
It was a defrag. It's just a tidying up.
Good Lord.
They just,
anyway,
like with Doctor Who.
No, stop doing that.
Doctor Who was a defrag.
It wasn't.
It was just a tidying up and a polishing of all the good bits.
But it wasn't in any way They're very different in that...
Exactly, it's a defrag.
It's not.
It's not a continuation.
No, it is.
How could it possibly be a continuation?
Because,
You would never have seen Christopher Eccleston up against a giant Bertie Bassett man, would you?
What,
Just wouldn't have happened.
You saw him
in
up
a floppy
against,
cardboard pretend spaceship.
You saw him up against big green farty monsters that ripped the skin off humans and then fit inside them.
You may have just won the argument there, Scott.
I had a go. But no, James Bond, what my point, dragging this kicking and screaming back to my point,
Yes.
was that I don't know if James Bond needed the full reset to kind of... Daniel Craig was... to see him earning his 00 status and going on from there, in that each new James Bond before that has kind of, in their own way, if you will, been a bit of a soft reboot, in that each James Bond brings a different feel and different style to it. None of them refer back to previous Bonds.
Except for these new ones.
Apart from these new ones. We'll come on to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But then, and so each new actor that takes on the James Bond mantle brings something of his own to it, and so in that way they're all a soft reboot. This one, showing his kind of origin story, for me, not origin story, but his kind of becoming a 00.
But we are learning a lot about his past as well in the process.
We are.
Yeah.
And for me it kind of messes with the whole... part of the thing was that someone else plays James Bond each time. We don't know who it's... We don't really know how the continuity for all of those works. We just kind of gloss over that bit and move on. Whereas now we have this whole thing where all of the films kind of link together in a way that's not.
But it's the
with James
same
Bond.
conundrum.
I don't know whether I like that or not.
It's the same conundrum Doctor Who would have faced when William Hartnell, or whatever his name, originally bowed out, or did he die? I can't remember. Well,
he bowed out. He came back and he was ill, but he came back in a few of the later episodes as kind of
another Doctor,
as a time traveling first Doctor
Yeah.
that would interact with the second and third Doctors. But my point when you say that, James Bond, Doctor Who was rebooted. Doctor Who wasn't rebooted. Doctor Who is a full continuation along the way. You see all of the Doctors.
So you're saying that Christopher Eccleston wasn't a reboot, no, but it was a defrag. It was definitely a defrag.
It wasn't. You've made up a word.
No, I mean, obviously everything got pretty clogged up. The minute you introduce Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, things are looking like an old Windows 98 PC that's in desperate need of a defrag.
Oh, you and this metaphor gets more tortured by the minute.
Isn't it an analogy? I can't speak.
I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, but the point again is that with every new Doctor, they kind of they get a little bit of they get a re-injection, if you will, of vitality. They get a bit of if we're going to stretch your metaphor as far as it'll go.
Go on.
They get a bit of an a malware clean out. All the crap is removed and it just leaves the shiny good bits with each new Doctor. But
I'm just imagining Graham Norton playing Doctor Who. That would be great, wouldn't it?
I've always wanted... the guy who played Alan Rickman. I think Alan Rickman would make a fantastic Doctor.
A bit spooky.
Yeah, I'd like that.
No spookier than Peter Capaldi, though, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Timothy Dalton was in Doctor Who, so I guess James Bond is a Time Lord.
That works for me.
Yeah.
I'm all right with
All
James Bond being a Time Lord. There's a lot of similarities between the two if you look for them.
No, as a child, going back to your thing about how it never refers back, as a child, I used to wonder why didn't he ever talk about his previous lovers from the last movie?
Well, exactly. I think
because they tended to end all right, didn't they? Except for when they get shot up.
Yeah, they get shot to bits. And I can't remember which Bond it was, but one of them actually got married. I think it was
on Her Majesty's.
Yeah, was it Lazenby? Was it his one go and he messed it up?
Yeah.
But at the end of it, he kind of he gets married to the girl that he's shagged all the way through the film, and then as they're driving away happy after their wedding, she gets machine gunned in the head.
And that's the ending to the movie.
Yeah,
people couldn't have come out of that in a good mood, could they?
Well, no.
But apparently there was supposed to be what's wrong with my face today? There was supposed to be a revenge plot to the next movie with George Lazenby, but he sod off.
Well, I think he was asked to sod off rather than he did it himself.
Unless he was just unhappy that his wife got shot up.
Well, quite.
I'm not in a James Bond movie that ends on such a depressing note. I'm out. I'm leaving. Yes, according to the James Bond timeline, then, if Daniel Craig is a reboot, that means that by the end of James Bond's life, he is perhaps married to Halle Berry, and Judi Dench has risen from the dead?
You've lost me.
Well, because
I'm all
if
right
Die
with it.
Another Day is the end of the story, and Daniel Craig's rewound us all the way to the front,
Okay. So yeah, let's imagine.
are they ever going to
then-
catch up with the old movies?
So So you're saying then that Pierce Brosnan has settled down with Halle Berry somewhere, and they've got a cat, and they pop off to
Well, no, they had
Waitrose every weekend for
they
their,
had
for their shopping.
A shed load of diamonds, didn't they? At the end
Oh,
of Die
they
Another Day.
did, yeah, and they rolled around in them, which is really uncomfortable. Imagine rolling around in some bits of glass, and you're pretty much there.
I always wanted to be the Diamond Face Man.
Yeah, he
He was
was
a good
quite
villain.
cool. He was, yeah.
What was the thing with the Asians? I still don't understand that.
What?
Well, the Asians in the movie.
I've got a very bad feeling about where this is going.
No, the Asians in there was something about
I feel I should apologise
surgery,
preemptively
wasn't
for
there?
this.
I was trying to look this up on the internet last night, but I was wondering if you understood that storyline better than me.
Ooh,
Well, you know the man who used to be Asian in Die Another Day and then wasn't, and then he had to wear the magical face mask and never went to sleep.
yeah.
This is why they had to reboot.
Yeah, when you say it like that, the reboot does kind of feel like a good idea, doesn't it? Yes, the bad guy.
Yes,
Gustav,
yes.
someone or
So
other.
why was he suddenly American in the end, or was that just did the wrong actor show up and they just thought,
I think the idea was that he was supposed to have had some kind of gene therapy that changed his face and his identity and his DNA and everything. Why he chose that sneering, blonde,
yes,
idiot face, I don't know, when he had quite a cool kind of explodey Asian face at the beginning, but...
no,
that's a different guy,
a different
wasn't it?
Asian.
Oh,
Dear
Lord.
me, this is
No, that's just me
dangerous
not
territory.
remembering the film properly. That's right, because Diamond Face comes along later and attacks him, doesn't he?
Yes, because a big box of diamonds blew up in his face.
That's right.
Yeah,
Which-
thanks to James Bond.
Yeah.
I googled Asians James Bond,
Oh,
and
Lord. I don't know if Asian... can we... Is that allowed?
well, it says here on thetelegraph.co.uk
Oh, wow.
that James Bond films no longer funny because Asian audiences don't get the joke, says John Cleese. But they're not meant to be a joke, are they? James Bond films aren't meant to be all just one big joke, are they?
Well, John Cleese was Q for a little while.
Yes. 2 films.
2 films.
Same amount of time as Ben Wishaw.
Yes.
But Ben Wishaw's made more of an impact as Q, I think.
Oh, for me, he has. But then I have a thing for Ben Wishaw. He's
Dear
lovely.
me. Did you see him running about naked in
No.
in that Shakespeare movie? I can't remember what it was called. What's the one where they're on the island?
12th Night.
No, the other island.
Oh, there's so many islands.
Oh, and we'll figure that out. Oh, Scott, you're going to have to give me 30 seconds worth of... Whoa.
Bear with me 1 second. I need to clear my throat before I do.
Okay.
There we go.
30
I'm back.
seconds. I
Ooh,
think
hello.
there's a part in the back.
Oh, how exciting.
30 seconds worth, please, of
Of.
what we do in the shadows is all about.
Okay, so what we do in the shadows is a vampire comedy, but it's a kind of different sort of vampire comedy. It's as if the vampires are a little bit socially awkward and nerdy, and it's about 3 or 4 of them living together and kind of getting on each other's nerves as flatmates, more than the very stereotypical kind of romantic thing. They're just awkward and no one does the dishes and they argue about stuff quite a lot. It's very funny, it's very silly, it's very New Zealandy. Watch it. It's good. It's on Netflix.
I like the way that they put the word hilarious quoted from all their reviews all over their poster.
Yes.
That was quite a smart move, I
Yeah.
think. Yes, I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. I thought it was just going to be, I mean, I watched the trailer and I thought, oh, it's trying to be clever. But it was just
Well, was
trying to have a laugh and just be silly and just be daft.
And it was sweet and silly fun. It's nothing. It's not trying to be Interview with a Vampire or anything.
No.
It's silly like that.
Well, I like the way that they managed to take the mickey out of every single kind of vampire trope in the 1 hour and a half running time.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really fun, and they do it really well. My favourite character is the one who's having the midlife crisis. Well,
Who's that?
mid-unlife crisis, afterlife. I don't know. The one who has
Just been recently turned into a vampire.
No. The one who has suffered a defeat at at the hands of his nemesis, and so now has lost all his powers. And
Vladislav the Poker,
yeah, that's it. Whatever
as
his name
opposed
was.
to the Impaler.
Yeah, Vlad the Poker. Yeah, the one he kind of he loses his confidence and all of his vampire powers kind of go away, and he's just kind of ends up hanging around outside people's houses trying to look at them through the window, and no one notices him and stuff. He was my favourite.
No, my favourite was, is it Viago? The one who's very upset about blood being everywhere and talking about you've got to clean up, and seems like a very practical vampire.
Yeah. And there's also, I also have a lot of love for Peter, the 3,000 or 4,000 year old vampire who lives in the cellar and doesn't really say much and just kind of stalks around in very kind of Nosferatu style. I think that was brilliant.
This is what I mean, though. Like, took the mickey out of every kind of aspect of vampires that we've consumed as film movie goers or whatever over the past however many decades. That was a long sentence.
Yeah, I mean, from Nosferatu through kind of Interview with a Vampire, and they even get a swift kick in at Twilight at one point as well, which was lovely. So yeah.
Can you believe, though, that there was more than 120 hours worth of footage shot, but it was all improvised? Well, most of it was.
I think this is obviously something that you have to be really good at what you're doing, but I imagine how 120 hours of pretending to be one of these dorky vampires.
I mean, as a filmmaker, the directors Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi.
I don't think you need to pronounce Jermaine Clement like that.
Well, you can only be too careful. No, they must have felt like they were wading through treacle, trying to find
the good bits.
Some decent material, and it's up to the editors, really, to make the movie, isn't it?
Yeah, imagine being that
Here's
editor.
120 hours worth of utter...
Yes.
Sorry, I decided not to swear.
Yeah, but you can imagine being that editor and sitting in your office waiting, and then, we've got that footage for you. And you're like, where is it? And you hear that beeping outside. That's the truck backing up. We're going to drop off 120 hours worth of footage. You've got to go through it and find the bits you like.
Thing is, though, when you're making a normal movie, that isn't improvised, how many hours of footage over what you want the runtime to be do you end up with on an average?
I don't know, but then but I think the difference is you end up with a lot of takes of the same stuff. That's true. Whereas if you're doing 120 hours with it being improvised, I imagine stuff will be different every time, which might actually be harder, because rather than going, right, we know what we need to happen in this scene, we know what we're looking for, we just want to find the one that conveys it best.
Yeah.
You've got, this one's got a slightly different line in it that I think's a bit funnier, but the reaction in this one is better. And
but you could chop it up and slice it in with the others.
Well, you could, but then you end up with running the risk of this is the editor's job, I suppose, to make it all look coherent and like it's one good version. I think they do that in...
with documentary style,
very well.
it's easier to get away with.
And I think
you can cut away to other things, can't you?
You can. And I think they did a really good job. I think it doesn't play like stupid. It's a good movie. It doesn't feel awkward or badly chopped together. It
like most American rom-coms do.
Yeah.
That was my problem with. Do you remember Bad Neighbors, or as it was called in America, Just Neighbors? Not Just Neighbors. It was just called Neighbors.
Yeah.
Not like Ramsey Street.
I only really saw the trailer and went, "Ooh, Zac Efron."
Zac Efron.
And then tuned out again.
Well, I watched the movie, and it was mostly just. A lot of that kind of American, we're hilarious because we're just umming and ahhing in the lounge for about 10 minutes.
It was Seth Rogen, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
He's not funny.
Well, I mean, not when he's not given a script to work with, which evidently he hadn't been in Bad Neighbors.
Well, they've done this on Family Guy. He doesn't actually have to say anything funny. He just says things, and people think he's funny. And if you actually think, if you listen to what he's saying, it's not any good. Well, I don't like him anyway. What was he famous for? What was his big one?
Probably that. Just standing around saying things.
Well, he did Zack and Miri Do a Porno, and that at least was... That was a little different.
Did he not do anything before that?
He probably did. I don't know.
All right, we'll investigate. And by the way, the film that Ben Wishaw was running about naked in...
yes. This is the important stuff.
Was The Tempest.
Ah, The Tempest. Okay. Oh, yes, they are on an island in that one as well, no? Yeah.
And for the rest of the show, I'm going to be asking a question.
Is it something to do with Ben Wishaw being naked?
No, nothing to do with Ben Wishaw being naked, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
It's Who Said This?
$1 million.
You might call it an easy one. But it's kind of in keeping with the show. There are some people out there who are scratching their heads. You know, we're movie buffs. We know these things.
Yeah.
But somebody out there doesn't know who said
$1 million.
I think we can give them a clue. It is linked to one of the films that we're discussing today.
It's linked. Yes.
It's not
Loosely
from, but it's linked.
linked. Yes. So who said?
$1 million.
If you know the answer, please do tweet us at ELR Comfortably. Use the Facebook page .com/ELR Comfortably. What are the other options? Oh, yes. No, of course, if you just want to listen to the back catalogue, please do at mixcloud.com/Roobox.
Yeah.
Well, we're going up. And we're also on iTunes.
We are on iTunes. Just search "Are You Sitting Comfortably" in iTunes, and SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/ELR Comfortably.
I must say that Thomas Newman's music for Skyfall, it left me feeling like it could have been more James Bond. But it was a very good soundtrack in itself. I listened to it at the gym a lot on the treadmill. And it gets you pushing up that extra weight when it gets very aggressive. You know, he does this da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, which he did in Skyfall, and he does that again now. I wasn't happy about that being in another James Bond movie because I don't think electric guitar-y bits really suit it. But he weaved it in with trumpety noises and brought the David Arnold or John Barry, isn't it? John Barry. Is it John Barry?
No, why are you asking me?
The original composer of the James Bond soundtrack.
John Barry sounds about right. Why not? Let's go with that.
Anyway, he weaves all that in, and it sounds more like what's the word I'm looking for?
Not a
when
clue.
something's genuine. With something's like when it's got the shiny Disney sticker on it, you say it's authentic.
It's got a shiny Disney sticker on James Bond.
No. When it's an authentic Bambi, that's what you say.
Oh, I've never said those words in that order.
But this is an authentic James Bond soundtrack,
right?
And yes, it is John Barry.
Even with Sam Smith kind of ruining it a bit.
No. In fact, I discovered the other day a rejected soundtrack for Quantum of Solace by Shirley Bassey and David Arnold, and it was so much better than that shouty number by Alicia Keys.
You can't go wrong with a bit of Goldfinger in my eyes. That whole he's the man with the Midas touch.
How many did she do, and why wouldn't they want her on board for the reboots?
I don't
or
know.
the defrags?
I don't know. Probably because if you use those words around her, she wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about.
This is true. Should I give you 30 seconds worth of what happens in Spectre?
I think you could probably do it in 3 words, just explosions and women. But yeah, give me 30 seconds. Go on.
Exploding women.
Go for it. Knock yourself out, love.
Here we go. So James Bond, after the death of... Oh, no, sorry. Should I be saying that? All right, hang on, one moment.
Right, so there's the spoiler horn. Are you announcing spoilers from Skyfall?
No, yes.
Right.
Yes, but everyone's seen it. Everyone's got it on Blu-ray. I mean, it's in every home. So come on. I just thought to be careful though, because some people might not know. Right, here we go. Right, so after the death of M in Skyfall, James Bond's a little upset, and he gets a special video message that tells him to go to a funeral of somebody that links him to a big corporation that's linked to Quantum from Quantum of Solace. It's nice to include the movie. It's a Spectrum. Spectre is with a... Oh, God almighty. That's the worst one I've ever done. What was I thinking?
That halfway through.
Spectrum. What's Spectrum?
You're very close to speculum, which is a medical device used to hold open a hole during surgery.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's where you wanted to go with
it's
that.
either speculum or scrotum. I was
or sputum.
confusing Spectre with. It's got all the noises in. All right, so... Spectre is a secret terrorist organization headed by a man who talks very slowly and suspiciously like the previous James Bond villain, getting a little repetitive there. And he's in charge of all the CCTV, and they're keeping an eye on MI6, so every move James Bond makes is predicted already, but he's got to outsmart them and rescue a previous Bond villain's daughter from their clutches. And to be honest, Blofeld, Oberhauser's... whole thought processes are a little bit difficult to suss, but I also revealed another spoiler there by accident. It's difficult because you think not much actually happens in James Bond movie, like you said, exploding ladies, but
I didn't say... never mind.
But Blofeld, I mean, Oberhauser is revealed
A little bit late for that one.
to be Blofeld.
But that doesn't matter at all.
No, it's more of a harking back. But people who don't know that will miss out now on that opportunity to go, oh, in the cinema. But you shouldn't really give a monkeys, because it's more than that. It's more than Blofeld's name.
Yes, which again you're pronouncing incorrectly, but never mind. No, for me it was like when he does that and decides that his name is no longer Franz Oberhauser, he is now someone Blofeld. It was supposed to be this big reveal, and if you take it as a harking back to previous James Bonds from before the reboot, defrag, antivirus, whatever, then yeah, you get that kind of like, oh, he's James Bond's nemesis from the early James Bond films.
But in this timeline, it doesn't make much sense.
In this, yeah, it's supposed to be like this thing, and it's like, all right, call yourself what you like, mate. I'm still going to blow you up. It doesn't make any sense at all. And this is the thing that annoyed me about, if it's a reboot,
yes,
stop nodding at all the previous, and there's a lot of nods in this film.
But they are just nods.
But they're all there, and it's like, well, if you reboot, then you're pretty much drawing a line under and saying this is no longer part of our timeline. But then if you keep nodding back to them, you're kind of muddying the waters again. It's a bit like keeping Dame Judi in from one version to the next.
I did wonder why they did that.
Probably a contract thing.
Yeah,
I imagine
probably.
she was signed up for four James Bondses.
She's losing her sight.
Oh,
that's why she was kept.
Oh, that's why they kept her. What, like some knackered old cat that just needs to like wander around and leak everywhere for a while before it finally goes to the big vet in the sky.
Nobody should speak of Judy this way.
No, this is what I mean. I love Dame Judi. She's my favourite of the dames. I have a very sweary story I can't tell on the radio about Dame Judi.
Why would you mention it? Now
Because
we're all eager
to
hear.
It's an awesome story. Buy me a drink in the
put
pub,
it on
listeners.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Here's a scary Halloween fact for you.
Go on then.
The movie went over budget by 50 million.
Good lordy Lou. That's over budget by 50 million. That's not total cost. So it costs so much that 50 million over.
Yeah.
The original, which presumably was in the hundreds of millions to start with.
Yeah, so in total it was £300 million budget. Then they went 50 million over, so it was 350 million, which means it's the second most expensive movie ever made.
Was the first Titanic, I imagine?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Google didn't tell me. But it did tell me that it tied with, in second place with Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Which is incredible to think, because that does look like a more expensive movie. I mean, what in Spectre would have pushed the budget up that high?
Explosions.
They did get an exclusive Aston Martin made, especially for the movie that's limited to just 10 cars.
Yes, and then they blew it up.
Well, yes. I suppose that does cost a little.
Yes. Actually, talking of the car, this was one of my my irritations in this particular movie.
Go on.
The new Q... He can't really be asked with integrating the controls into the dashboard. It used to be that like there'd be hidden panels that would have the weapon controls in them, or an extra set of switches would pop up under the steering wheel or between James Bond's legs or whatever.
But
and this is just like 4 little stickers slapped on the dashboard.
They're going for realism, aren't they?
If you're going for realism, then name them what they do, not really silly obscure names that are not helpful in the middle of a fight. It's like, I'm gonna press the atmosphere button and the music starts up.
Yeah, it was a bit like that scene from Vacation where they're pressing the muffin button and the windows explode.
Exactly, and it's like air is an ejector seat, but I would want ejector seat to be labelled as this is the ejector seat. Don't flipping press it unless you mean it.
Well, what else could air mean?
I don't know.
Air, you're going in the air.
Well, maybe the car is underwater and you're struggling to breathe. It's going to fill the thing up with more air.
So in a high-speed James Bond chase, you've got time to flip open a little IKEA-style pamphlet and read exactly what all the buttons do. Step 1, a little diagram.
No. Well, this is the point. If there's no time for that, you should have the labels on the buttons should tell you exactly what they do, so you don't need a pamphlet or some kind of
but then it
weird
would be
understanding.
So what would you write on the air button?
On ejector seat.
Yeah, but then what if it's the ejector button for the CD tray?
Nobody has a CD. James Bond does not have a CD tray in his car anymore.
He might want to keep his little plastic cup in it.
No.
with his shaken, not stirred. What was it? He has
That's a martini.
Vodka martini.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently, Pierce Brosnan had the most vodka
Sex.
martinis
Right.
out of all the James Bond, and he killed the most people, and he had the most sex. So he is the most James Bond.
Well, I don't know if he is. I think you can't get better than Sean Connery, really. I think.
No. But statistics alone,
Ah.
and because of his haircut, Pierce Brosnan is the most James Bond.
And he can wear a tux, can Pierce Brosnan. I think I found.
Yes, he can.
I found. Just tailoring wise, I found Daniel Craig's James Bond a little fussy. His suit was a little bit showy. I think I don't know why. There was something about it. I don't know what it was, but I didn't like the way his tux. And he randomly had his evening dress. He had a white tux that he wore to dinner on a train for no reason apart from.
Well, where was he keeping it?
Exactly.
Wouldn't you be
they
wearing
rocked
one
up with
that's all...
no bags, and then suddenly he's got a white tux.
And also, there'd be some creases at least, wouldn't there?
Well, he does hand it to the guy and says, "Press this for me, please."
Oh, yes, he does, doesn't he?
But where it came from for him to hand it to the guy, I have no idea.
What about the fact that James Bond literally punches through a wall with his bare hands and then doesn't have any scratch marks on his hands?
It's great, isn't
in
it?
the next scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I think they were grasping a bit. I enjoyed Dave Batista, the big lad. The big lad.
Oh, Hinks.
Yeah.
With his pointy thumbs.
Yeah.
Yes. He was channeling the man with the top hat, wasn't he?
He was supposed to be, yeah. And I just think it was like it was.
This isn't a nod. This is a reimagining.
But it's not. It's just
Oh,
like
he would be wearing a hat if it was a nod.
But it was like even from his very first appearance, where they're at the big scene and he comes in and just kills someone for the fun of it, and no one really bats an eyelid. I think someone.
No, that's to say this corporation is truly evil.
If I was running a big evil corporation and I was having a big secret meeting, I wouldn't want inconvenient dead bodies laid around the conference room. Someone's going to have to explain that at some point.
Which is exactly what concerned me about
Here we go.
when.
Yeah. We're getting through a lot of horns today, aren't we? Is that 3 or 4?
That's 3. I think. But when the volcano base got blown up,
yes,
which is, by the way, I think a really nice touch.
Wasn't
and
a
nice
volcano
nod.
base, it was a crater base.
Well, same thing.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, it's the volcano base. It's a nod, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, when that got blown up, what about all the cleaners?
Well, this was my thing.
They're a corporation. They're going to be hiring people who who don't have a involvement with all the dark,
exactly.
underbelly.
They just like mop up and all the blood and shit. Yeah.
Someone's got to do the account.
Yeah, exactly. And those people all got blown up. And no, I think I remember saying when we came out of it, there are no people like James Bond and his woman and the bad guy are the only ones on this entire train. Like they fight their way from one end of this lovely kind of classically decorated train, smashing it up as they go, and they go through dining cars and a kitchen and a storeroom and all sorts. There's nobody else on the train. And there's like a bit later, there's some scenes in London. There's not many people in London
This
nowadays.
happened in Mission Impossible as well.
Well, yeah.
If you're going to run about shooting people, no one's going to be in London. People know. They get the memo.
Yeah.
They clear the streets.
Yeah.
And it's always very late as well. And nobody's on the streets in London late, are they?
No, not everyone's in bed by 9.
Yeah, it's a very civilized place.
We like a good nap. We're up for 6, so we need a good night.
Do you think that Spectre deserved to be the longest movie ever made? Not the longest movie ever made. The longest James Bond movie ever made.
I don't remember feeling that it was particularly long when I was watching it, but at the same time,
I wanted more.
I
kept thinking, I hope this isn't the end. And then it never was. And then there was another ending. And I was like, oh, yes, more James Bond. More Thomas Newman with his trumpets.
Oh, I never really understood the motivations of the bad guy, which you mentioned in your
I still don't myself.
Strange 30 seconds. And that was part of it. It's like, why is he going after James Bond? Why does he care?
Well, this is why
they were supposed to be brothers or something, weren't they?
Yeah, well, Austin Powers styling.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's not a nod to Austin Powers.
No. But I'm asking the question: who said
$1 million?
If you know the answer, tweet us. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
Yes, Casino Royale was good.
Was it?
Yes. Because
was
I was going to say because the villain he wasn't kind of a nutter. I mean, he was obviously a nutter, but he wasn't like a nutter. He just wanted to get on with his own life. He wasn't going, "Oh, Mr. Bond, I'm going to make your life a living hell." He was just thinking, "Bond, get out of my face! Stop interrupting my evil plan. I'm going to kill you now for that."
I also find the idea
it's a bit melodramatic the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic James Bond villain thing where you could put a bullet in his face yourself right now and walk away, or you could strap him to a table and have lasers slowly slice him into tiny pieces while he figures out a way to escape.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Which wasn't a very James Bond or intelligent way to escape, I thought. Q gave him a thing, he used the thing, he's out the chair.
That's pretty much how he does his thing. It's like that's how James Bond gets out of all his
but
strange
he could have
situations.
done something
It's a
clever.
gadget that implausibly works exactly in the way that could never have been foreseen by Q in the first place, but somehow helps.
No, but I think he could have used the cat somehow, or I don't know, used something
Q
random.
would give him an exploding cat.
With the exploding watch he was given. We've run out of trumpets.
Yeah, we have. That was another stupid thing. It's like explodey watch, right? Fine. I don't know whether I'd be happy having a small but quite powerful explosive strapped to my arm at all times.
Yes, it's a bit sore, isn't it?
Yeah,
which reminds me,
sore as in SAW as in the films, not sore as in "ooh, that's smart." It's when my arm is shot across the room from an explosion.
Yes, the film with Jigsaw and "Do You Want to Play a Game" and all that, and how Jigsaw tends to put up posters around to psych out his victims and say like, "Oh, this is the person you killed. Are you going to kill this person now?" And he does graffiti on all the walls and stuff as if he's got the time.
It's a lot of preparation.
Which is what happens at the end of this James Bond film. It's a lot of James Bond walking down corridors looking at scary posters.
And I did think...
Which is very sore.
Yes, well... It wasn't... I did think as well, there were again, the same as in Mission Impossible. There's... this is my overly elaborate plan. Oh, you foiled it. But luckily, I had a second, even more elaborate plan in place that I couldn't have seen that you would fall into because I was planning the first plan, but somehow I have, and here we are. And oh no, you foiled this one as well. Well, I better go for my backup plan, which is even more elaborate, and somehow I had time to do all of this while still running my secret organisation. It does seem a bit odd when he's got this massive organisation on every country in the world, and he's somehow infiltrated all the security people, all the security agencies in the world, and all this kind of thing, that he then cares enough about what one douche in a tux does and can't just have him shot or blown up or killed in a normal way. He shags that many women, you could just off him while he's in the middle of boning some random lady.
Daniel Craig doesn't bone that many ladies.
He had 2 in this movie.
Well, in Casino Royale, he only got halfway through one.
Did he?
I think.
Bless him.
Because he fell in love.
Oh.
Yeah.
He fell in love, so he just went, sorry, it's all gone a bit
He
wrong.
fell in love with another lady. I think. I only counted half a bone, anyway. From memory. I might have to go back and have butchers. We wanted to mention just a few other things before the end of the show. I don't appreciate imaginary buildings in London.
I haven't been down that end. I haven't been around Vauxhall for a little while, and I was wondering whether this was a new building that had been built. I was quite excited.
Well, the same thing happened in Stormbreaker. Do you remember that? Alex Pettyfer, blonde hair?
No, because I didn't watch that because I was uncomfortable with how attractive Alex Pettyfer was when he was only 16. So I didn't watch it. I kept away from it.
Right. You can watch it now.
Yes,
surely.
I can watch it now, but he's in Magic Mike, I think.
Yes, he is, isn't he?
Yes.
It's
fine to fancy
but that had
Max's
an
at least
imaginary building.
Did it?
Yes, and I didn't like that because I thought, well, that now I can't suspend my disbelief because that building isn't there, and I've walked down that street.
Bugger. Well, it was. They did that in one of the Bonds, the one where he jumps the boat out of the MI6 building into the river.
No, yes, I liked that.
It was fun, but the MI6 building isn't that shape and doesn't have any bits that overhang the river, so it made no sense. But it was fun.
Well, I like it when he rolls down the dome and stuff like that. That was exciting.
What about in this movie when they are on a boat on the river and they disappear into a massive arch under the... Which doesn't exist.
No, but we don't know that doesn't exist. So
well,
that's okay.
I know that doesn't exist.
How do you know that?
Because I've walked along the other side of the river. You'd be able to see it.
Well, it's more subtle than a big old skyscraper
than
sticking up out of
big,
Vauxhall.
shiny glass building that doesn't really exist.
Did you appreciate the way that this movie, Spectre, brought all the others together, or did you think that was forced and unnecessary? Because in the last movie, it seemed as though Silver had an extremely personal vendetta against M. Why would Spectre have anything to do with that?
Yeah, this was actually... I think you've made my point. I'm just going to go yes, because no, definitely. I felt because I only watched Casino Royale and Quantum of Sausage once each about 10 years ago, and I've slept since then, so I've forgotten a lot of the plot. In fact, I can hardly remember Quantum of Sausage at all. I just remember a building,
different flavour.
I remember him being very angry and a building blowing up for no real reason. And I didn't really. There was a lot of harking back that for me didn't need to be in there.
Yes,
but, yeah,
it didn't. It really didn't.
It really felt like you say. It felt a bit forced, and it annoyed me because I couldn't remember those movies, and I was like, "Who is this guy? Why does this matter? I don't really understand."
Well, no, perhaps it was better with Quantum, because Quantum, everybody didn't really like Quantum, so at least if you hark back to Quantum, it makes Quantum purposeful. It have a purpose. It makes it make sense. Whereas on its own, it was kind of a bit of a flop. It didn't,
almost as if they were planning it all along.
Yes,
when
exactly.
They weren't.
Yeah.
No,
but then in that sense, it would have worked.
And the other thing, James Bond has not actually done any proper missions, as far as I'm aware. He keeps going rogue, but you can't go rogue if you don't have any missions. You're just a douche with a gun.
Next time he's going to have to do a mission.
Yeah, at some point, someone is going to have to go, Bond, go and do the thing. And he'll go, all right, I'll go do the thing.
And then he'll go and do something else.
Yeah, it's like, don't run around shooting people off your own bat. Well,
unless they're on your bat.
Well, whatever. But just, otherwise, he's not a secret agent. He's just a guy that is allowed to kill people for his own entertainment.
We've been asking the question.
$1 million.
Who said that? Who said that?
$1 million.
Here it is.
Here's the plan. We get the warhead and we hold the world ransom for $1 million.
Well, don't you think we should maybe ask for more than $1 million? $1 million isn't exactly a lot of money these days.
Okay, then. We hold the world ransom for $100 billion.
That is why the reboot had to happen, because James Bond had become exactly what its spoofs were taking. Its spoofs, Austin Powers were taking it to the extreme, but in Die Another Day, it had got to that kind of little finger to your mouth levels of silliness.
A little bit, and I mean, let's just move on.
But Austin Powers is fabulous, and they're doing a fourth apparently, which is probably going to be awful.
Yeah, it's worrying.
But let's enjoy the theme tune as we say goodbye.
Oh yes, tutty bye.
And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Enjoy your Halloween.
Join us next week for another thrilling episode of Are You Sitting Comfortably?